Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. Or maybe like all one or two people. This is my first time doing a live stream, so going to just kind of get everything turned on. If anybody is, or once somebody gets in the chat, maybe they can tell me, they can confirm that audio is working. Trying to give everyone a nice view here, in addition to hopefully answering some questions. There's a little bit of a delay as I'm looking at my screen, so hopefully that doesn't throw me off. But we're getting our first little start of snow here in Worcester, Massachusetts, so quite nice and timely for a little Q&A. So I just put out a tweet here. I'm not sure if anybody is in. If you're watching, if anybody is viewing the live stream, maybe say a quick hello in the chat. Or I'm just going to keep talking to myself here. This is an experiment. I don't know if anybody's going to sign up or ask questions. We'll see what happens. But just to kind of set up why I'm doing this, it really is because I would like to just help out a little bit. I think I see a couple viewers in there, so welcome. I'm just going to kind of chat here for a minute while I'm making sure that the feed is working. You can kind of check out my nice view from what you can see of that. Please check the video resolution. Okay, so I think that's fine. For the couple viewers that are watching, just leave a little note in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me, see me, if everything seems to be functioning. Hi. Okay, the sound is only working on one ear. That is very interesting. Let me try to fix that for you. Thank you, Lars, for letting me know. Let's try to maybe just make this mono. Audio. Mono. Apply. Of course, my wife is calling me at the beginning. Lars, how's that? Is that better? I switched it to mono for audio. Obviously, we'll have some technical kinks to work out here. Just going to let a few more people trickle in. Feel free to converse with one another in the chat as well. So as I was saying, I'm really doing this because I would like to help. I've been doing SEO for quite a very long time now. And I definitely just feel very lucky to be able to work with, a number of clients and kind of be in a situation where I feel like I have a little bit of value to give back. So whether you're doing, whether you're just learning SEO or just starting, or maybe you're in a more still only left ear. Okay, we'll get to the audio in one moment, Lars. Thank you again for letting me know. Just started. Sorry, folks, just texted my wife here. So whether you are, experienced with SEO, or maybe you're in-house and going to try to be a consultant, or you're just learning SEO, or you even want to ask me about my, questions about my experience with podcasting or content, I really just want to help. So, if I can offer a little bit of advice, then I will feel pretty good about that. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just switch to my laptop mic because I'm hearing that you're only hearing it in one ear. So just bear with me for one moment while we switch mics. Okay, that should be the laptop mic now. How is that, Lars? Is that better? It's like funny you have all this expensive gear. This is a $300 microphone, and you just go with a cheap laptop mic and it seems to work better. All right. So Lars or somebody chime in and let me know if that audio is better, if you can hear it in both ears now. At any point, if anybody starts having questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube chat. Leave them in the YouTube chat. You can, if you want, give me a phone number that I can call you on, and I will actually call you with my phone, and you can ask me the question directly. And if anybody wants to leave an anonymous question, you can do so on Twitter, DM, at Dan Shore on Twitter, and I will be checking my DMs as we go. So I see a couple people in here. So 2 viewers. Quite the popular live stream. So Lars, I don't know if you have a question or if the single other viewer in there has a question, but happy to kick things off that way. And for the couple people watching, if you feel up for it, give the stream a tweet or a share. The more people that kind of show up and ask questions and converse, the more valuable hopefully this will be. If anybody has any questions to start out with, and as this is kind of a new thing and there's not a lot of people here, this might be your chance to actually get a little bit more in depth of a question and even answer and maybe a discussion on something than in the future if there's actually more people on the stream moving forward. So, and if I don't get questions, this will just be the world's most boring live stream ever. I think in lieu of questions, what I can do is just maybe give some thoughts around something in the SEO world that's top of mind for me, and that maybe will just add some value while we're waiting for some questions to come in. And this actually came from a question, an email that I got from one of the SEO publications. Somebody's looking for sort of a curated list of opinions on what the trends are going to be in SEO in 2020. And specifically, they wanted to know what trends do we need to be aware of to be successful in SEO in 2020. So I'm going to give my quick little take on that, and then I see a question from Lars in there that I'm going to get to in a moment. It's a great question. So the question that I'm going to answer first that I was asked by this person writing at one of the SEO publications. He wanted to know what were my opinions on the trends that we should focus on to be successful in SEO in 2020. And my very honest answer to this was, to be successful in SEO in any year, you shouldn't actually focus on trends at all. And what I mean by that is through working with many, many sites now, all situations, e-commerce, B2B, B2C, etc. What I see over and over and over again is that if you just focus on the fundamentals of SEO, which, fundamentals makes it sound a little bit boring. It's not boring at all. There's a lot of exciting and interesting things that can happen just with getting the fundamentals right, like site architecture, internal linking, URL structure, matching your keywords to your topics, to your search intent, to the right content. All of those things, that's the stuff over and over that I see lead to SEO success. Trends are kind of good, in my opinion, to be aware of, whether it's zero-click searches or BERT or core updates, or maybe voice search will kind of get a little bit more popular in 2020. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in 2020, but trends are maybe this unique window in time. If you're in the right industry, or if you are have the right type of site or the right audience, you might be able to capitalize on a trend. Like voice search or zero-click searches. I don't know how to capitalize on that. Or something like, when certain structured data comes out. But typically that's not going to get you long-lasting results in SEO. So that's just me kind of ranting a little bit on something that I was asked earlier in an email. Again, to the point of, I really don't try to chase trends to find success in SEO. The things that you're going to read about in the headlines, like day by day, are not the things, in my experience, that lead to ultimate success. Okay, let's get to your question, Lars. Thank you for participating here. So Lars says, any tips on a site with many pages and few incoming links and a new site? Yeah, I mean, most of the link building, I don't do link building. Most of the SEO I do does not focus on proactive, quote unquote, link building. Now, that's not to say that links don't matter and that you shouldn't be paying attention to those and maybe doing things to try to influence links from happening. But I really do focus on those core pillars of SEO that I was talking about. So the first thing I would look at, Lars, is of the pages that you have, you say many. So if you want to put in the chat, how many is many? Are we talking 1,000, or are we talking a big e-commerce site that's 50,000? I think that nuance might be a little important. But if you're talking about a site with many pages but few links, what I would first do is define the exact pages and search queries that you want to get traffic from. It's a mistake that, and this sounds very simple, I think, but it's a mistake that many companies make, is they come to me and they say, Dan, we're losing our traffic or we're not gaining traffic. And then you ask them what keywords they want to rank for and what pages match to those keywords, and they usually don't even know. So that's the first step. And again, it sounds very simple, but I like to start there because many sites overlook that fact. And Lars is saying it's 200 to 500 pages. That's a fairly, relatively speaking, yeah, maybe it's a large site, but relatively speaking, that's a bit on the smaller side. So if you only have 200 to 500 pages, that's where you should really be exactly defining which of those pages should be landing pages from organic search. That's step number one. And you do that by defining, researching, analyzing what the keywords are in your space and segmenting them by transactional, informational, brand, etc., and then maybe even segmenting those further. And then what you want to do is align those to, what is the content type that should match with those keywords. That's the second big mistake I see a lot of people make. I had a B2B client I was working with, and they wanted to rank for a converting, like a money keyword or transactional keyword with a guide. And that's just not going to happen. It's not the right type of content. So Lars, when you have all your keywords mapped out, this is the first step, is you want to make sure that you're aligning all your product and service or service keywords with transactional pages, and that's clearly defined. And then you have content around that. If you want to leave a little bit of context to what type of site this is, Lars, that might be helpful. But you should have content, whether that's a blog or guides or informational content, to target the informational searches in this space as well. That's the first step, is you have to have the content that matches the search query on the right pages. Then what you can do from there, Lars, without a lot of external links, you can make sure that your internal linking structure is set up in the right way. Thanks. So I see a second question from Sebastian. Awesome. I wasn't sure we were going to get past one question here. Also, I hope you appreciate, I tried to give you somewhat of a view. So in case I get boring, which probably will happen more often than not, you can stare outside my window. This is Worcester, Massachusetts, by the way. Anyways, yeah, internal linking's big. So what you can do, Lars, is make sure you're capturing the link equity that you're receiving from the few links that you're getting. So I worked with another site recently, a much bigger site, like 90,000 URLs. And when you crawled the site, so this is what you can do, Lars, crawl your site with Screaming Frog, look at the structure graph, and a site that small, you should have most of your pages 1 or 2 clicks below the homepage. And if you don't, that means you might want to expand your main menu. You might want to add maybe a HTML sitemap. You might want to introduce index pages. So you have a page that's 1 click from the homepage, and then like a table of contents page, so all that other content is more easily found. If you have content, make sure you have enough categories so stuff doesn't get buried. So when you have few external links, you want to try to capture the equity that you can through good internal linking structure. So Lars, I hope that is helpful. I'm going to move on to the second question by Sebastian. So again, I see a couple more people joining and a couple likes. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you want to ask a question, leave it in the YouTube chat. If you want to ask something anonymously, leave me a private Twitter DM, and I won't say your name, but I'll ask the question that way. And you can also give me your phone number in the chat if you want me to just call you. Okay, question from Sebastian. He says, any general tips for e-commerce stores on how to rank? You sell decorations and homeware. Hello, someone else. I see you in the chat. You say, yay, I made it. To give some more context, you do quite a lot of internal linking. I try to get backlinks from certain suppliers that have store locator pages. Okay, so, and this is B2C. So Sebastian has a B2C e-commerce store selling decorations and homeware and looking for tips to rank. So Sebastian, one of the biggest opportunities that e-commerce shops miss is introducing categories that target things people are searching. A very straightforward, simple example is if you're a clothing retailer. Actually, I had a client in this situation at one point. They literally didn't have a winter jackets category page. You can't rank for winter jackets if you don't have a winter jackets category page. People Googling winter jackets for sale, purchase winter jackets, etc. Before we get to how to rank the pages that you do have better, Sebastian, you definitely want to make sure you have the pages exist to begin with that should rank. So what you want to do is maybe a little bit of keyword research in your space to find what are all those product categories in the decorations and homeware space. And when you do this, don't be afraid to target a keyword that maybe just has 100 or 200 searches a month. What you want to do, because you can run into the danger of maybe cannibalizing pages as well. So what I recommend doing is when you find a keyword, maybe it has 100 or 200 searches a month, you search it in Google, make sure you see other category pages they're ranking. That tells you that sort of has a category search intent. Google that next to maybe the category that's a higher level up. So if you have, decorations and homeware. So if you have, wooden blinds is a bigger category, but maybe there's a subcategory that's like black wooden blinds. If you Google those two side by side and you see very similar rankings, and the black wooden, what I call this, blinds, doesn't have a lot of search volume and the content's not all that different between those two, then you might just need the same page. You can just have a wooden blinds page. But if you Google those both and you see one result, you've got a lot of wooden blind stuff, and the other result, you have many, many things ranking that your competitors have categories for just black wooden blinds, you should create one of those. And we found that via keyword research. So that's your first step, is to make sure you're accounting for all that. Number two, when you do have the pages correct, technical aspects are a big part of e-commerce SEO. So there's a lot of posts out there for how to correctly set up your navigation, your URL structure, your internal linking, how to account for, if you're using like faceted navigation with parameters, how to control for crawling, how to handle pagination. So all that stuff's super important, but I think a few concrete things that you can do is, number one, on your product pages, in the title tag and on the pages themselves, you want to make sure that you're speaking transactional language. So from a keyword perspective, you quite literally should make sure you have the words like for sale or purchase online or transactional keywords in the title tag. So when people are Googling, kitchen spatula for sale, you might even rank a little bit better for those purchase intent specific searches. But then it's showing users in the search results and on the pages, hey, I can buy something on this page. You're showing them that the purpose of this page and the functionality is transactional. And that's titling, and make sure the main heading has like for sale or for purchase. Then what you can do for the on-page content, a lot of this is going to come down to things like great photography of your products. If you're reselling stuff, try whenever you can to get high quality photo. Take custom photos if you can. If your products warrant maybe a good video, you can include a video showing that product with a human, maybe like showing some of the features of it, or just something where you can actually see it close up. You should also speak in a transactional way on that page. So one mistake I see a lot of e-commerce sites making is they have a product, but then they go into like the history about the product and they start talking about like the definition of it. And that confuses users in Google because you have a transactional page with informational content. Make sure your content, even though you might be talking about the product itself or anything like that on that page, you're speaking in a transactional way. Educate the user as to how they can use this product in their situation. Tell them about the features and benefits. So that's the sort of language that you want to have on that page. There's a lot of other things you can do on e-commerce pages and content. Those are a few things that come to mind. I'm going to keep moving along to get to some other questions, but Sebastian, hopefully that helps. I do see a little bit more context. So you get internal linking and backlinks. So, okay, yeah, backlinks for e-commerce is important. Of course, you can do standard sort of tiered link building approach where you use content and content marketing to promote yourself, to rank that in search, to build links to that in whatever way you might be trying to acquire links. And then that, of course, will link into the actual product pages. You can also listen to a podcast episode I did with Garrett French a couple months ago. He talks about incorporating elements within the content on your actual product and category pages that are linkable, like little widgets or linkable things, so you might be able to more easily get links right into those product or category pages. So it's some really smart stuff, and check out Garrett French and that podcast episode. Okay, glad to see some more questions coming in. Still hovering around like 5 or 6 or 7 viewers. I'm not sure if the live stream that you're seeing shows more than that, but that's all I see here. It kind of hurts a little bit, but as we do more of these, I think more people might show up. So let's get into the third question. I'm not sure how to say your username here in YouTube, but I'm just going to go ahead and read your question. So it says, I have a page that ranks well for most keywords, but the top keyword that brings 60% of traffic is not the keyword that the article targets. Should you expand the brief mention of that keyword in the same article, or should I make a new page? So what you need to do here, so the question is basically, you have a page, there's something you wanted or expected that page to rank for, then it ends up ranking for something else. And your question is sort of what to do about this situation. Here's what I would do. I would take the keyword that you ended up ranking for and your page and just do a bit of analysis to like see, does this page actually fit the thing that it ended up ranking for? Let me try to think of an example. So let's take 2 keyword examples hypothetically. Content marketing strategies and content marketing tips. No, content marketing strategies and content marketing, trying to think of a good one. Content marketing ideas. Okay, so you have content marketing strategies, content marketing ideas. If you search both of those in Google and you see the results are very similar, this is kind of like my e-commerce recommendation a little while ago. If you search both of those and you can kind of map those keywords really to the same content and the same intent and the same structural information that the user's trying to get at, then you could pivot what you've done with your existing page and try to optimize that or re-optimize it for that keyword that you ended up ranking for by accident. So it really just comes down to, is the content that exists, does it actually well target that thing that you ranked for by accident? And if so, then yeah, you can pivot that page and continue to try to rank it even better for that particular search. But if by looking at Google and maybe just, a lot of this is just intuitively thinking about the keyword and the content. So I don't know what your keyword is or what the content is, but sometimes you just know that by looking at in Google, what the user has searched and what they're seeing in Google, might not be in alignment, or your content, what they've searched might not be in alignment. So that's kind of a call that you have to make. On the flip side, though, what I could recommend is you may want to just try creating a second piece of content where you're intentionally targeting the thing you accidentally ranked for, and you may end up ranking both. And this is something I've seen happen in Google, despite the fact they've said that their diversity update was supposed to do away with sites ranking excessively or multiple times on one search result. I'm still seeing a lot of sites ranking 2 articles, sometimes even 3, in one search that are semi-related. So you may want to just try. Now, if I can ask, if you want to leave a comment, is this page, so this is an article, I think, because my advice would be a little bit different for an article versus like a product or a service. So maybe any clarification you can add into that would be great. But if it is an article, you should definitely consider creating a new article that specifically targets that thing that you've searched for. So that would be my advice there. Thank you, Sebastian, for the feedback about the targeting the transactional language. Yeah, I've had clients just pivot their language on product pages towards transactional, and they've started to perform better. So you want to speak the language of where the user is at in that funnel. This is something that I believe Google, whether they're using in rankings, I know it's something they can look at through analyzing the language. and speaking to the user at the stage of the funnel that they're at can only help you as well, even if Google's not using it, because that might help a user convert better too. So just to wrap up the third question about maybe creating a second article, I don't think so. What you want to do is make the new article, even though it might have the same keyword in the title or be about a similar topic, make it very different from your existing article. And different might mean structurally. Like if you just step back and look at your headings, you might structure the document in a different way. You might, if one article is a how-to, maybe the other article is a what is. So that's another way to think about how your content is positioned. You can have a topic like content marketing, but you can have what is content marketing, that's a separate topic. You can have how to do content marketing, that's a how-to. You can have why should I do content marketing, or benefits of, that would be a benefits post. So even if you have the same topic, that topic can be segmented into different types of content that's structured in a different way. So maybe your answer here is to have one post that's one content format, and then the new post is a different content format. So definitely something to at least play around with and experiment with. So got some more viewers trickling in. For anybody that's just joining the live stream, we're going to go like another 35 minutes. I, again, have tried to give you a nice view. So if I get boring, which will happen, you have something to look at. If you want to leave a question, the YouTube chat is a great place. I'm going to keep an eye on my Twitter DMs. If you want to leave a anonymous question, I'm happy to answer a question that way. And if you want me to call you, which would make this stream very interesting and a lot more fun, I think, for all of us, you can leave your phone number, in the YouTube chat area as well, and I will call you. It can be a fake Google number or whatever. Okay, great. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful. Getting a little bit of delay in the chat here. So the next question, Shabir wants to know, what is the BERT update? I'll give you a little bit of my take on it, but honestly, your best bet to learn about the BERT update is to check out Brittany Mueller's video that she did on Moz last Friday. Her video was a very clear explanation of what BERT is and how it fits into context with natural language analysis and SEO. So I'll give a quick distillation to her explanation, but you definitely should just go watch her video. And there's been a couple other good articles as well. Dawn Anderson did one that's a bit more technical. I just kind of skimmed it, but that's another article you might want to check out. So BERT is just a way that computers and search engines it's a new method of analyzing language. So my very sort of basic explanation would be the BERT method of natural language processing would be to be able to look at language bidirectionally. So when you have a sentence, if you have a word in the middle of that sentence, now they have the ability to analyze the word based upon what comes before that word and after that word. When in the past, I believe it was just sort of unidirectional or much more sort of simplistic and linear. But now they have the ability to analyze queries and content in this sort of bi-directional way. I also recommend you read a post on the website blind5yearold.com. That's the blog of AJ Cohn, another amazing SEO. He's one of my favorite SEOs and one of the best blogs, in my opinion, to pay attention to for SEO. He had a post called Algorithm Updates in the Age of Embeddings. And this post is a very detailed look at not only BERT or BERT-like natural language processing, but all of the other types of natural language processing and machine learning that Google and search engines are using to understand language. So specifically speaking, BERT, to my awareness, is used to analyze search queries, much like Hummingbird was. But in my opinion and my strong hunch, again, I'm not getting this information from anywhere literally, but and maybe Google has said this, but I don't know. I believe it's possible that Google might be using BERT to analyze on-page content as well. And so I have this theory of my own. this didn't come from anywhere, it's just my own theory, that if Google can better analyze on-page content and they understand if you use the word, trying to think of an example. So a word that has two meanings, like cup, I'm sure has two meanings. So you have a cup and then you have, Stanley Cup, for example, the trophy you get in hockey. So you can have a cup like a drinking cup or the Stanley Cup. My belief is that if Google is able to understand the context of the word cup, now you have a situation where maybe Google will weight keywords and phrases differently based upon their understanding of the context of that word. So they might, you've probably heard of stop words. Like the Yoast URL plugin will remove the words the and a from URLs because they're stop words. They're meaningless. They don't add any value. So maybe Google, through analyzing language, can understand when words and content should contribute to keywords that they use to weight their rankings with. Now, again, what I'm explaining here for the last minute is all my own theory, but I believe that's one possible application of natural language processing that Google could use. That is why, with my clients and any content that I'm involved with, I make sure to have that content be very, very clear in its language. We use tools like Hemingway app, and there's a new tool out there called Rand Fishkin shared it a few weeks ago, and I forget the name of it. ICE, I think. It's a desktop tool that analyzes content. You can very easily confuse users and search engines if you're unclear in your language. This is especially noticeable in something like structured data or featured snippets. If you are trying to win a featured snippet, but you have an unclear definition. So one mistake I see people making is if you're trying to define a cell phone, and you go, a cell phone is a term that describes a type of phone. Well, now you've defined a phone as a term, not a phone as a piece of technology. You see the difference here? So your language is a very, very important way of how you need to be phrasing things. So you need to pay very close attention to that. And I do believe that this might impact how Google is able to analyze your content and then perhaps rank it better or not based upon what it analyzes. So that was a bit of a long rant about BERT and just sort of my beliefs. Prior to BERT, one thing I do a lot with clients is make sure that they're being very clear with their language. We remove fluff, we remove passive voice, we remove anything that could confuse both Google and users. Okay, so yeah, so obviously, ask questions. Okay, so yeah, someone's making, I think, a suggestion for how to maybe ask questions in the YouTube chat or something. Yeah, natural links is hard. So for anybody trying to get natural links, I have a couple tips for you. And let's define a natural link as a link that you're not proactively building. You're not doing outreach. You're not running a scholarship program. You're not doing something that your sole primary purpose is to get links. One thing to look at is what I call intent to link search queries. I did a webinar on BuzzStream a few years ago, and you can find their write-up that goes through my entire process for this. But when you look at how a lot of sites get links, it's because they rank for something that people are searching in Google with the intention of finding a resource to link to. And then they go ahead and link to the first reputable site that they find, or reputable result that they find. A great example of searches for this is statistic searches. So if you're in the electric bicycle space, somebody searches electric bicycle statistics with the intention of wanting to find statistics to then link to because they're a journalist or a blogger or somebody writing about this topic, but they don't want to put all the statistics in their content. Now you've built a link naturally. So what I recommend doing is take informational searches. Definition searches are a great example of this too. What is an electric bicycle? What is content marketing? Any topic, run that through Google, use the Moz plugin, and look at how many domains have linked to that specific page. That's a great way to tell if a page is link worthy. And if the page aligned to that keyword is link worthy. So the whole point here is to try to build content with one of your goals, not being necessarily traffic or even conversions, but because you want those pages to rank and then people to build links to those pages for you because you're ranking. So that's a tip, a way to think about building links naturally. Okay, another question. What is the best way to optimize content for a specific city if you don't have a physical location? For example, online school. Yeah, I've done this with a number of clients. So number one, you have to make the content as location specific as possible. I see sites, maybe you have 20 locations and they cut and paste the language, the keywords, like everything about the page except for maybe the title tag and URL. It's the same content on all those pages. So you need to localize your content. And this can definitely border on like coming across as like a little bit cheesy. Like if you're trying to create content for a Boston audience, like, yeah, you can put like pictures of the, public garden and the Boston Common and stuff like that. You don't want to come across as being like, over the top with this. But you can bear in mind that that audience is going to consume content in a certain way. They're going to look for, they want to be spoken to in a certain way. They understand things in a certain way. And they're going to want to know about your product or service in relation to their location and all of the things that relate to being maybe a Boston-based business or consumer. That can trickle down into, tax situations or, the ease or availability at which they can get that product or service. Is it in person? Is this something they have to order? Does it take longer to get to them in certain locations? That can trickle into the products themselves. Maybe maybe you're dealing with a product that has some sort of like weather component or component to seasonality. So you really need to customize your content for people in that location. The second thing, and speaking of link building that you can think about here, is just a couple location-specific links, backlinks, can really help pages like this. And so what you might want to do here is think about a little bit of proactive link building, but it doesn't have to be dozens or hundreds of links. I've seen sites that just get one or two, good quality, not even high domain authority, but like a link in a local newspaper or a link from a local school. It's got to be a good in-context link, though. It can't be something where you're in a list or you're in a sidebar or anything that's not the central focus of the content. So the link itself needs to be good. Is there a business in that location that's actually a customer of yours? Can they do an article on you? Can you, collaborate in some way? So some sort of location-specific link would be helpful in those situations as well. Let me just actually read the rest of your question. For example, 100% online school wants to target. Yeah, so if this is an online school, what you should really do here, this is a mistake I see so many sites make that have an online product or service. Make sure your goal is actually visibility, rankings, traffic for when they use the word online in the keyword. If this is, math, I don't know if this is higher ed or elementary or what type of education this is, maybe tutoring. If it's just, if the search is math tutoring Boston, well, I don't know that maybe you can clarify a little. So this is an online school, but you're targeting students in a certain city. Okay, so you have an online school, but you want to get students from Boston to take that online school. I'd be curious to know why you want students in a certain city, what the reasoning is there. If this is an online school, that's kind of interesting to me. But the other thing you can think about too is creating content marketing for people in that location that, number one, ranks in search and drives you awareness traffic, maybe mid-funnel traffic that way, but then links into those lower city pages as well. So if this is, math tutoring in Boston, maybe you should write an article that has something to do with math education in Massachusetts or Boston or New England. Maybe it's math field trips, or maybe if this is like an art school or something, you know, like museums in Massachusetts, like something targeting that location. This does a couple things for you. This gives you relevance in the eyes of Google for that location. So if Google sees, hey, this site has content where people are using Boston in the keyword, you're ranking, it's driving clicks and traffic, that I believe, and I've seen this sort of play out in practice a few times, is going to show Google that you have a relevance towards that location, and maybe you're serving users in that location. So that's something to consider. The last thing, a little bit out of left field here, but for the location stuff, I would consider doing some live events in those locations. The links that you might get from that would be great, but now you're doing natural marketing and networking and promotion in that exact location. You might gain, there's so much value you can get from events. You might gain insights to what content these people want that you can publish on the blog. You can go do the event, you can record it, now you have video content. You can go do the event, maybe speak at it, you can sponsor it, you can watch maybe your searches rise in that location. So there's a lot you can do with local events. The other thing to consider too, now my brain's just kind of going off a little bit here, and I'll get to if there's any more questions. I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I'm just kind of rant here on this for a minute. I'm promoting local pages, but definitely leave a question in the YouTube chat. Privately on DM if you wanted to be anonymous. I'm still waiting for that first phone number too. Whenever that happens, that'll be fun. But the other thing to think about too is maybe a location-specific podcast to advertise on. I know that might seem a little bit out of left field, but really what you're trying to do is drive up your relevance for your product, service, company, etc. in that city. What you want to see is maybe brand searches increasing in that city. So if you segment your search volume in AdWords, or you go and look by location in GA or something, Google Analytics, you want to see signs that your company, website, etc. is gaining awareness in that location. And then that leads me to my last point, which is really about tracking these searches in a very calculated way. So if you're trying to gain visibility in Boston, one thing that might be happening, if it's math tutoring, you might just have people sitting in Boston Googling math tutoring without putting Boston, because they're sitting in Boston and they know Google's going to localize that result. But you should segment that in AdWords. I don't think Search Console gives cities. But you should segment that and see if you're actually getting volume, or just look at your page segmentation in Search Console. Maybe you're getting that awareness in Boston, but people are just Googling math tutor and you're just showing up because you're being localized. I would also get a rank tracker and track all this stuff by location as well, you know, by zip code or city location, state location. It's really important to keep a close eye on your actual visibility when you're trying to increase those location pages. So just a little clarification on that question. Thank you for that. This is for higher education. Do you definitely recommend an individual page for each location the school wants to target? So not necessarily. Like if your offering is an online class that they can take anywhere, maybe what you really want to pay attention to is the national keywords. So, you know, I don't like, if you can give an example search query, that would be great. But if it's like online math degree, or math degree or something, science degree, biology degree, art degree, maybe these searches are degree searches. It's less of a priority to be, unless there's some business reason for you wanting to target these locations. Maybe you're trying to target locations that you know are a little more affluent or more likely to take or these classes or use these services. I'm not sure, but from a pure SEO standpoint, if your product or service is online based and there's no limitation to location, then you may want to consider having I see another question. Thank you for that. Okay, medical assistant program. So here's the reason why you might want to rank locally. Maybe somebody is sitting there going, I'm in Boston. I want to take a medical assistant program. And they don't realize there's online options. They might go to Google and type medical assistant program in Boston. But then if you can show up and be visible for that in Boston, then you're on their radar as an online option. Here's the thing I would do. I would take all of your topics or degrees that you want to rank for. So medical assistant, art instructor, like whatever it is, mash those up with all the cities and locations. So you're going to get a big long list of keywords. If these keywords like medical assistant program, Boston, math teacher program, Boston, whatever they are, if these have search volume on them, even like 100 searches a month, and you Google them and you see all the other results are these location-specific pages, even from online sources like yourself, then you should have those location-specific pages. If you get this long list of keywords and they don't have a lot of search volume, and you Google them and you're not seeing a whole ton of location-specific pages, look at what is ranking there, and then you might actually just be able to rank with your program pages. Because a lot of times Google will rank the program page for a local-based search because the program page is the best result. So it really matters taking a look at kind of the landscape of what's happening there. Maybe you end up with like 20 keywords that are in very popular locations like New York, LA, Boston, etc., that have a lot of volume. Maybe you can just create those program pages for those locations only and then let the online ones pick up the rest. So it's going to take a little bit of keyword analysis there, but hopefully it helps get sort of the mindset going in the right direction. Okay, seeing a couple more questions here. This is an interesting one. So Shabir wants to know about getting a SEO job in the US. He says he did 6 months SEO internship at a company in India. Can I work remote staying here in India? Yeah, I mean, remote work is a very real thing now. So that's the first thing to get off the table. So if you're looking for an SEO job, I would say that parameter is going to be based upon language, not geography or where you actually are. Language and an internet connection is really the parameters and the barriers here. So if you stay in India or don't physically come to the US, what I'd recommend, Shabir, is, you can go a couple routes. Like it just comes down to marketing. You've got inbound and outbound, paid or organic. So I'm much more the sort of organic marketing type of person personally. So if that's like you, Shabir, you might want to blog, get on Twitter, partake in things like this, do organic networking. Try to become a guest on podcasts, try to guest blog on other SEO sites like Moz, etc. Like if you sign up to try to contribute for Moz or Search Engine Journal or like any of these and you start to get some visibility and you're saying things that other people notice, I don't think you're going to have trouble finding a job, but you've either got to go outbound and get yourself out there and start publishing content, even just getting on Twitter and replying to some of the most followed and watched SEO folks on Twitter is a great way to start to gain attention, especially if you're taking the time to reply with something that you've put a little bit of thought into it and you're trying to add a little bit of value. Even just asking questions like you're doing here is a way of adding value because you're giving some content for this Q&A. Other people are learning from it. So that sort of participation can really, really go a long way. Now, that might not be you. I do that and I like it and I do it fairly well, I would like to think, but others don't like to do that. They want to do something that's more paid or inbound. So if that's more like you, Shabir, what you might want to do is have your own website with some pages that talk about your services and your experience with SEO. Run some paid ads on it. Try all kinds of ads. I mean, I even tell clients now, maybe experiment with Reddit ads, Quora ads, some of these a little more off the path places that are still business-like and still where people are learning and gathering information. LinkedIn ads. Actually, Shabir, I didn't mention LinkedIn. I would go really, really heavy in LinkedIn. I would post stuff that you know about SEO. I would post questions. I would post what you're learning. I would just post everything that you're up to in the world of SEO on LinkedIn and build your network there. Connect with every single person you've ever met on LinkedIn. Make sure you're connected. Make sure your profile is really well built out. I did a podcast episode a couple of years ago where I interviewed a LinkedIn expert, Viveka von Rosen. She walks through her entire process of recommendations for building out your LinkedIn profile. When I did that, I got more leads that way. So yeah, Shabir, I would go really heavy into LinkedIn, whether you're going to do paid or organic. I think that would be a really smart move for you. And definitely at least have a standard website with some information so people can find more about you that way as well. So Shabir, hope that helps. If you do physically come to the US, I would go to in-person events as much as you can. So for example, Tech SEO Boost that's happening in Boston in like a month or two, it's a free event. You have to sign up and they basically accept certain applicants, but it's free. There's a lot of free meetups, even in mid-sized cities, even in less populated locations. In-person events is a great way if you physically come to the US. Okay, I can't believe we're 50 minutes through this live Q&A, and at the start there I was a little worried we weren't going to get many questions, but for our little group here today, I'm glad that you showed up and have been asking some questions. So let's get to a couple others that have come in. Okay, so what process do you follow when you get a new client for SEO? So yeah, this is a great question. There's two main paths that I follow when I get a new client, maybe three. One is the website itself, technically speaking. Two is their keywords. And three is sort of their traffic history and maybe their overall goals and how that ties into what we do. So step number one, I always do like a full audit. I find that doing a technical audit on a website, even though it's technical and I'm not thinking about marketing or keywords or content, that's going to uncover stuff that I then put and kind of save for later in my strategy bucket or keyword bucket or whatever. Because going through that process of becoming familiar with the website through an audit, I find to be very, very valuable. So even in some cases, if the client isn't necessarily asking for or expecting a site audit, or they don't want it first for some reason, I kind of always begin at least with a general audit of the site, because it really helps me understand what's happening with the site. Second, I talked about keywords, and I mentioned this a lot in the Q&A, and I kind of beat this drum a lot throughout all the SEO I do. One of the biggest mistakes I still see sites making is they don't define the keywords and the content that they want match with those keywords to rank. So what I always do is you take a business or website, whatever they're up to, if it's content, B2C, e-commerce, B2B, services, SaaS, whatever, make sure that they've got those product or transactional or service intent keywords defined, and they have the right pages for those. A common situation with SaaS websites is, they might sell software, but they don't actually have pages that talk about all the different components of that software. Another example is if you do marketing, you can't just have a page about marketing. You should have a page about social media marketing, Twitter marketing, like all the different subtypes of marketing, marketing automation, etc. So that's kind of the second path, is just figuring out where they're at. What is the gap between the pages they have versus what they don't have that should be closed to target all of those transactional oriented keywords. That's kind of the second thing. And then the third thing is doing a bit of a dive and analysis into their traffic. I want to get a sense for how are they doing in the Google algorithm. So, looking into things like any past ranking data that they have, or I can uncover Search Console stuff. What I want to do here is identify some specific keywords that, based upon the content they have and maybe where they're at with domain authority, that I would kind of expect them or want them to be ranking for. And then go into the Google SERPs and do an analysis on what's sort of going on there. Looking at patterns of traffic history, ranking history. I want to get a sense for, do they have an uphill battle, or are we kind of like running downhill, algorithmically speaking, with the site? Because then that will dictate strategy. What I mean by that is, if it seems like the algorithm and how they're doing and what they've been up to has been in their favor, then I know we can maybe be a little bit more creative, do a little bit more with content. We can kind of go to some more stuff that would be different than being more defensive. If it seems like they're having trouble in the algorithm, like rankings bouncing around, rankings dropping, traffic patterns are inconsistent, maybe they have certain pages that have lost a lot of traffic, then I know we need to be a bit more defensive. That might mean cleaning up old backlinks. That might mean untangling chains of redirects that they've had accumulating over years. It might mean identifying and fixing deeper technical issues. It might mean cleaning up the quality of the content, maybe better aligning pages to keywords. So you have to be, when they're kind of running an uphill battle, you have to be a little bit more defensive or diagnostic in a situation like that. So that's strategically what I'm trying to figure out. Are we being proactive and trying to move forward here, or do we have to step back a few steps and kind of clean things up? And I'll say the fourth thing that I do here with all clients is figure out where they're at education-wise and how well is SEO worked into their company and organization. Everything from a 5-person business all the way up to thousands of people, you need to figure out where they're at with SEO. I often say it's actually easier to help a company with SEO that's never done SEO, because they don't have all that baggage. They don't have history of mistakes and learning things the wrong way, or maybe things that were right at one point and that aren't right anymore. And so I'd much prefer, in many cases, to work with a company that's never done SEO before, because you're starting with a clean slate. I did an interview with, her name's slipping my mind, but she talks about the SEO maturity model. Heather something. I still can't remember her last name, but her podcast episode was great because she walks through this exact thing I'm talking about, how to determine where your client is at and the sort of the scale of SEO maturity. A lot of clients, like just in fact today I started a new project with a new client. Normally what I do is start with that audit and deliver recommendations, but I realized that they have been doing SEO kind of badly and in the wrong way for many years and still are. So before delivering recommendations, from their education standpoint, I realized what I want to do there is help re-educate them on SEO. How do they think about how traffics and rankings and metrics and all this stuff works? We need to align there before we get to all the different action items. So I hope that answers your question for SEO process. And we're getting to almost towards the end of the live stream. So I'm glad a handful of you were able to join and ask questions today. Definitely we'll take another question or two if there are any out there. I'm going to check my Twitter DMs here. Don't see any questions left anonymously on Twitter DM. So what I'll do if I don't see another question here is I'll wrap things up in just a moment. So for those of you that were here, let me know. I mean, definitely, leave me a message on Twitter or here. Let me know, if this was helpful. Again, my thought process for doing this was, I feel very lucky to be in the situation that I'm at right now, being able to help, so many clients and had experiences with SEO that I really just wanted to take a little bit of time to do something to help others, no matter where you are, at your position in SEO. If this helps a few people, great. What I'm thinking of doing is doing these on Mondays weekly. Lars, awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for joining. I'm thinking of doing these streams Monday afternoons Eastern Time. I just didn't do it yesterday because we had a Veterans Day holiday here in the U.S. Thanks for the positive comments there. So look for this again next week. Again, I hope this really helped a few people out. Who are the best SEO guys to listen to on YouTube? Well, there's a lot of SEO guys and gals, by the way, on YouTube. So I definitely recommend, Marie Haynes has a good channel. She puts out a lot of good content on YouTube. I think Brian Dean's channel is great, even though he doesn't publish a lot of content. To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of other YouTube channels. I mean, definitely follow Barry Schwartz. He doesn't do a whole lot of SEO himself, but he's the one out there. I'm sure you've all heard of Barry. He, is, writing a lot and covering SEO more like a journalist. So he's going to keep you informed with all the major updates and Google announcements and stuff like that. So definitely check out Barry's channel. And Rusty Brick is his kind of like username. And he's recently been publishing a lot of interviews with SEOs and people in the SEO space that I also think is very valuable as well. So I have to think about it a little bit more. Those are the people that come to mind off the top of my head for YouTube channels. So those will give you a few things to start with. So I think I'm going to wrap things up there. Thank you everyone again for tuning in to the live stream. And I'm going to end things here, but make sure, thank you for that. Yeah, Experts on the Wire is the name of my podcast. Yeah, you can find it on iTunes and everything like that. So thank you for mentioning that, by the way. Experts on the wire. I'm not great at self-promotion during these things. Okay, thank you, everyone, and hopefully I'll see some of you next week or in a future live stream.